Hello and welcome back to Sideline Vision. We are officially in the podcast studio, as you can probably hear. And of course, I am here as always, and by always I mean one other time, with Ty Wellemeyer and Reece Leddy. Swing it over to Ty. How are you doing today?
Feels good to be in the podcast studio. A lot of people said they loved the content, but the audio was a little iffy. So for those of you who had audio issues, they should be fixed right now. So I'm feeling great.
Yeah, some people said we were never going to make it here. And look at us now in the podcast studio.
We're big time.
We're big time. Speaking of big time, how's big time Reebok Reece Leddy doing?
Dude, I'm doing super big time. Gotta make it big time. Getting the keys to the podcast office, podcast space, whatever you will call it. Feels nice to finally, be like every other comedian ever now.
Yeah, it feels good. I feel like people look at me and they go, that's a guy with a podcast that spends a lot of time in a podcast studio. And now I'm proving them right.
You give off that vibe.
I really do.
Yeah.
Don't ever say that to me again. We're going to start it off, as always, with instant replay, looking back at Belmont sports, what has already happened. And once again, I'm starting off with volleyball because I've been watching this team. I've been having a lot of fun watching this team. And yeah, very excited about what they're doing. They had 3 matches since our last episode. They're up to 4 consecutive sweeps now, including their previous 3 matches. We talked about one of them on the last episode. That was against UT Martin. But since then, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Nicholls State, TSU, all sweeps. And it's been dominant, too. UT Martin, I'm going to read off the scores of each set. UT Martin, which, again, we already talked about this a little bit, but 25-16, 25-17, 25-15. Big wins. Arkansas Pine Bluff, 25-12, 25-15, 25-12. Nicholls State, 25-12, 25-13, 25-10. And then TSU, they won the first set 25-9. And then 25-16, 25-16. So not only are they playing extremely well, but they're just dominating. They're dominating inferior competition, and they're making inferior competition look inferior, which is harder than it sounds.
Yeah, I was at the Nicholls State and TSU matches, and I never felt that there was a period of time where Belmont was going to lose a set. They controlled the tempo. They dominated with their spikes. They were blocking the opponents. Everything just really fell into place this weekend, and you can see it in the box scores.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to shout out our brand new vision writer, Sam Dykes. He covered 2 of the games this weekend, both games that were on Saturday. Did a spectacular job. If you go to the Vision's website, article's still up there. I'd highly recommend that one. Reece, we're going to swing it over to you now with soccer.
All right, so volleyball did a lot of winning this weekend. I'm going to spoil it now. A lot of soccer, both sides. Did a lot of tying this weekend, but we didn't lose. We did not lose. Men's soccer tied against Northern Kentucky Saturday, 1-1. That gives them now a start of 3-0-2. It's their best start of the season since 2020, where they went unbeaten for the first 7 games of the season, going 4-0-1. They had a man down, actually, in the last 31 minutes of the game. Jimmy Mark got red carded in the last 31 minutes of the match, and Grant Calvert, the graduate goalkeeper, had a lot of work to do. He got 6 saves the whole entire game, and 5 of those saves came in those 31 last minutes when they were a man down. So kind of had to hold down the fort, if you will, against Northern Kentucky. But hey, we didn't lose, we didn't win. As for women's soccer, they had 2 matches. They played Eastern Kentucky Thursday. They tied that one 1-1. They had 9 shots to Kentucky's 6 shots, so better on offense for Belmont instead of Eastern Kentucky. Sydney Jones' shutout streak ends with 3 saves of 6 shots faced, and it was a very aggressive match from both sides. They got 10 fouls total from both teams and 4 yellow cards. Kate Vertle had a one-timer that just went a little wide. Did not make that in the last 10 minutes of the match, along with Reagan Ross, who had a valiant effort but did not make a goal in the last 10 minutes. They played UAB Sunday with another tie, 0-0. This is the 3rd time in a row both teams have tied facing each other. Defense was just not there, allowing UAB to get 16 shots. Sophomore goalkeeper Greta Genie was in her 2nd game ever as a Belmont Bruin. Had 6 saves and earned a shutout. Congrats to her. That's pretty good for her second start. She played the whole 90 minutes. But the teams combined for 19 fouls, so another very aggressive game from both sides of the ball. Offense improved in the second half with 6 total shots from none in the first half. Reagan Ross sparked the team in the second half, but they got to step it up a bit if they want to, kind of be in control of the ball a little bit more. 16 to 6 shots is just not a number I like to look at. I don't think anyone does, but I know these girls can turn around. I mean, Reagan Ross was a 2024 third team All-NBC and a 2024 NBC All-Freshman team. Like, she's a really good player, and she's someone that can bring this team and turn it around and kind of get that spark ignited in the team. I just need to see a little bit more of that in her in first periods of the game, because that's going to do a lot more than having to rely on the second half.
I feel like a trend we've talked about with women's soccer the past 2 weeks is the defense has been stellar.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best in the country. The offense just hasn't picked it up like Nick and I thought they would in the first episode. When is it going to come? That's the question.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of ties, Ty, I want to ask you, you don't dress up very often. What has more ties, your closet or soccer last week?
Ty's closet. I currently have 2 ties in my closet. I believe women's soccer has double that. So I would go women's soccer has more ties than Ty Wellemeyer.
And speaking of Ty, we're switching it over to Future Focus, where Ty is going to take the lead on some new sports coming to Belmont this year. Not new sports to Belmont, but starting up.
New seasons. So men's tennis plays MTSU and Louisville in hidden duels. So basically what a hidden duel is it's like a scrimmage. Effectively, it just gets you into match play. You get to play the different sets, but it doesn't count towards the team record. So effectively a scrimmage with a fancy name.
I like the name a lot.
Hidden duels is very fun to read and to see.
More things should sound more secretive and sneaky. A hidden duel.
It sounds like they're about to fight on some mountain.
It does.
And then we have men's golf, the Grover Page Classic in Memphis. Some of the participants in this tournament include Belmont. You have SIUE Edwardsville, the University of Southern Indiana, Bellarmine, Murray State, Memphis. So mostly smaller schools, and then Memphis is in there just for giggles. And then women's golf is at the Velvet Classic in Paducah, Kentucky. That has Troy University, UAB, TSU, Southern Indiana again, Austin Peay, Loyola Chicago, and of course, Murray State.
And then in volleyball, because that's the only thing I ever talk about anymore.
You're now Nick Rampe, the volleyball expert.
I might be the volleyball expert. Many people are saying that. Not me, but...
Who are the many people?
Probably just my mother.
And me.
Who was upset that I shut down the birthday conversation, didn't give her another shout out.
You should have.
I know. I apologize, Mom. I love you. Volleyball has an invitational this weekend, the Siena Saints Invitational in New York. 3 other teams involved, Siena, Columbia, Stonehill. Siena, currently 2-4, only team they play that has a win so far. They have 2 of them. They then play Columbia also. It's a bit of a round-robin tournament. Columbia also 0-3, and Stonehill 0-7 to start the year. Volleyball should keep rolling.
You would hope that they go 3-0 this weekend, but Nick, I got a question for you, hypothetical.
I'd love to answer a hypothetical question.
Is playing in these easy classics, is that really letting us gauge how good volleyball is?
Is it letting us gauge? No. Do I care? Also not really.
No.
I like watching the team win.
That's fair.
And, there's a part of me where, I like watching a team just dominate from time to time. I like it when the Colts bring out the mascot football team to play the 5-year-olds because it's fun, especially when it's a team I'm rooting for. I like to see them dominate. So is it maybe, the best test or the best gauge of how well the team's doing? No. But at the same time, I'll be there. I mean, I won't be there, but I'll be watching.
You will be there in New York. Confirmed.
Breaking news to even me. I'll be in New York.
We bought a plane ticket. So
but yeah, very excited to see volleyball hopefully keep on rolling.
Yeah, so do you want me to talk about cross country?
I would love nothing more.
Yeah, cross country this Friday goes to Huntsville, Alabama for the Southern Showcase hosted by Jacksonville State. They're coming off a first place finish. Men's is, women's had the best runner. Hopefully that success continues. It's always nice to see cross country do really well. They've had a really good team during my time at Belmont. They've been really fun to cover, and I just hope they keep up the momentum.
So moving into women's soccer, the women play Sanford this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Junior defender Lily Tabor named MVC Defensive Player of the Week.
Whoa. Lily, if you want to come on the podcast to talk about that, please do.
And if you're, of course, approved by athletics to do such a thing, then, we don't want to get you in trouble or anything.
Yeah,
but
there's a process.
there's a bit of a process, but, open invite.
We can make it work.
You can make it work.
Make it work. It's more on the other end.
So Sanford, the Bulldogs, they're on a 3-game win streak right now. They're currently 3-2-1. The Belmont Bruins are 2-1-3. So kind of even record. Their sophomore goalkeeper, or the Sanford Bulldogs sophomore goalkeeper, Peyton Hull, was awarded Southern Conference Defensive Player of the Week as well. Freshman forward, Mamie Carmen, is a Nashville native and a Lipscomb High School alum, so she will be playing in her home turf for the Sanford Bulldogs as well. Story to look at there as well. This is going to be an interesting matchup. I think it's a pretty even split. I need to see some more offense out of women's soccer for this match. But then Sunday, they play Chattanooga in Chattanooga, and this is another Southern Conference opponent, so playing 2 in a row. Chattanooga is currently 5-1-1. That's their record right now. That is very good. I don't know how I see the women's soccer team really handling that well. Hopefully they just give it their best effort, but I'm more focused on the Sanford match because I feel like that's more the opponents we have facing this season than Chattanooga. I feel like a lot of our MVC opponents kind of match the Sanfords of those kinds of, what do you want to call it, like level of difficulty to face.
Yeah.
The
caliber.
Chattanooga, I hope we can win that one, but that's going to be a really tough game to win. And then as we go into men's soccer, they will play Presbyterian. Presbyterian has a record of 3-1-1. Belmont is actually undefeated against Presbyterian. They have never lost a game against them, so hopefully we can continue that streak. They're fairly even teams in terms of stats. They both have 7 goals this season so far. In terms of goalkeeping, Belmont has a better advantage. It's going to be decided by the goalkeepers, not the forwards this week. I think they have a save percentage that's 0.2 higher than Presbyterian. But yeah, I think it's going to be decided by the goalkeepers, and hopefully they can kind of keep it out of their side of the field and keep offensive, keep the attack going. But it's going to be a pretty interesting matchup, pretty fun matchup. So if you're in town at ES Rose Park, make sure to catch the game. Then next Wednesday, they're going to be at Southern Indiana, which is in...
That is in Evansville, Indiana. That's where my parents met. Evansville, Indiana, USI.
Also where you're from. I feel like you're burying the lead on that a little bit.
Well, I have a mantra every episode is shout out my parents. And they met at USI. So shout out Dougie Hubble.
Ty, how much are you a fan of the men's soccer Southern Indiana?
I just live and breathe the Screaming Eagles. I know they're not very good. I know some kids on the team. They try hard, but trying hard doesn't result in wins. And very obviously, the record translates that.
Yeah, this one seems like an expected win for Belmont. Southern Indiana is 1-3. And could anyone maybe guess how many goals this team has scored this season in total without looking at any notes?
My eye may have directly locked with the number on the screen, so I'm going to be keeping my answer to myself.
I mean, I'm going to guess. I did not look. I'm going to go. I mean, it's got to be low if you're asking the question. I'm going to go they've scored 2.
Well, they beat your expectations. They actually scored 3 goals this season.
In 4 games?
And yes. Their goalkeeper has had 22 saves, though. So that means that their goalkeeper is just doing all the work for them. He's the one holding that fort down, or at least trying to.
Congrats to him.
Congratulations to the Southern Indiana.
What was this at? It was 3 goals for them, and then against opponents, it was 18. It was just oh my.
I'm not sure if you want your goalkeeper saves number to be high, though.
Yeah, I don't.
Is that something you want to brag about?
Conducive of team success, but the guy's getting the hand on the ball.
It's not on him. That's all he can say. It's not his fault. Okay.
Now we're getting into a little bit of a new segment. Not really, but kind of. Instead of doing a pick'em where we talk about one NFL game and one college football game, we're actually going to be looking back at the previous week and looking ahead. We're going to be talking about the favorite thing we each had watching college football in the NFL last week, as well as looking forward to something we're excited about this coming week. So, Ty, why don't you start? What was your favorite thing you saw in college football this week?
Well, first off, for this, I want to shout out Kat DeRocha, former VNN editor. She texted me and said, "You guys have to talk about Vanderbilt."
She
on the pod."
demanded.
She demanded that we talk about Vanderbilt on the podcast. So
Believe she stormed the office, started throwing stuff around, just was absolutely out of her mind, mad, saying, you have to talk about Vanderbilt football.
So, Kat, this is for you. I'm shouting out Vanderbilt against Virginia Tech, going into a very difficult road environment. Virginia Tech, enter Sandman's blaring, the crowd's getting really hyped. I believe it was a sold-out crowd. Vanderbilt was down 20-10 at half. Diego Pavia threw one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen from a quarterback. They had a fumble. It just looked like the momentum wasn't on their side. Nick and Reece, Vanderbilt outscored Virginia Tech in the second half, I believe 34-0. 34-0.
That's kind of a lot.
They absolutely steamrolled in the second half. I don't know what Coach Clarkley said at halftime in the locker room, but it fired those guys up. Diego Pavia's throws were crisp. They were running all over him. Defense was shutting him down. And now I'm really curious to see how that translates over to the game against South Carolina this Saturday, because I think if Vandy plays like it did in the second half against South Carolina, I think Vanderbilt wins. So that's my favorite thing from last weekend. Give me the Vanderbilt Commodores.
Reece, how about you? What was your favorite thing in college football?
So I like that the Long Island University Sharks beat Eastern Michigan this past week. It's all about FCS football. If you really break down what it's all about, it's really all about FCS football.
Think of like the meaning of life. It really does boil down to FCS football.
North Dakota State runs the world.
Yeah.
If there's anything I know about growing up as a New England Patriots fan and having Bill Belichick as a head coach, it's him signing a player and going, who is that? Where is he from? Does this place exist? I never know. But an FCS win over an FBS win is always really fun. And the LIU Sharks just had a really good game overall. I'm pulling up the stats here. So in terms of first downs, LIU had 21 over 17 for Eastern Michigan. Total yards, they had way more than Eastern Michigan, 479 to 311. Just an overall good game for the LIU Sharks, beating them 28-23. It's always nice when you have like an underdog. I know Eastern Michigan isn't exactly a powerhouse of a team, but they are also FBS football, and it's always fun to see an FCS school beat an FBS school every once in a while.
Absolutely. And, you know, Eastern Michigan, they're not a powerhouse by any means, but they did produce Max Clark, one of Michigan's finest. And I don't mean to one-up you here, but I picked a D3 school beating an FCS school. So we both went with the underdogs this week. I chose Adrian College in Adrian, Michigan, winning over Valparaiso. Now, Valparaiso, not in the Missouri Valley Conference for football, but they are an FCS school. Just a lot of fun to, especially I know people that went to Adrian, and so seeing that on my Twitter feed was not what I was expecting when I checked, but always fun to see the little guy win, and it doesn't get much smaller than Division III college football.
No, it really doesn't. Really does not.
Now, going over to the NFL once again, Ty, what was your favorite thing?
Give me the Steelers versus the Jets. This game defied all my expectations. I expected it to be a low-scoring snooze fest. What we ended up getting was Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields having a quarterback duel for the ages. Justin Fields looked really good. He had some nice passes. He showed his running ability that we know he's had. Aaron Rodgers kind of turned back the clock, made some really nice throws. Just a really fun game with a really good storyline behind it. And I was on the edge of my seat towards the end of the game, which is very rare.
Yeah, it was a real thriller. I picked basically the same thing, although I focused mostly on Justin Fields, figuring it out. Justin Fields went to Ohio State and was drafted by the Chicago Bears. By all measures, I should not like the guy, just solely based on the uniforms he's put on, and yet somehow I found myself rooting for him. And it was fun to watch him finally figure it out. He played with a lot of confidence that he's not had in previous years. Really zipped the ball in, a lot of tight window throws that were very impressive. My thing with Rodgers is not that I expected him to play as well as he did, but I've seen him do it before, at the very least. Justin Fields, watching him figure it out in real time, just very satisfying to watch. Obviously, they end up losing the game, but he played very well. Good to see him, again, arms and the legs both working in tandem. Reece, how about you?
I'm going to have to go with the Colts versus the Dolphins game. One, because I love it when any team beats the ever living out of the Miami Dolphins. Ryan Fitzpatrick still haunts my dreams sometimes. I will admit that.
Happened.
But it happens to all of us, But Daniel Jones, Indiana Jones, whatever you want to call him this weekend, I don't know what's wrong with the Giants organization. I know this is only week 1, and I know it also is the Dolphins. But this man, this creation from the New York Giants, put up 272 yards, a throwing touchdown, and 2 rushing touchdowns, a 75% completion rating, and a passer rating of 115.9. I have not seen something like that in Daniel Jones, I don't think, ever. I don't think anyone expected him to play as well as he did this weekend. When the Colts decided to go with him over Anthony Richardson, there's a lot of questioning, but also, a lot of people kind of thought it made sense. Anthony Richardson, he's kind of a developing quarterback. He's not ready to be a starter like he was last season. Just a very impressive game for Daniel Jones, and that was the main highlight for me. It's just seeing someone on the Giants who you thought maybe his career's over. There's kind of a bit of a spark there, and I really like to see that.
Yeah, he was fun to watch. Honestly, probably the best game I've seen from him since his debut.
He looked fantastic.
He looked really solid. He wasn't making these exceptional plays, but he was just hitting what he needed to hit, and that's such a far cry from what we've seen him be. Always happy to see a guy figure it out, much like Justin Fields. Daniel Jones, if he can find a little bit of a renaissance in Indianapolis, I am all for it.
Yeah, I just want to shout out the Colts. Their first season opener win since 2013.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, season opener.
Season opener. Their first season opener win since 2013. My dad was not married to my current stepmom yet. So, that's a long time ago.
I would have been 9 years old.
I was also 9.
Yeah, I would have. That was before Minecraft for me. That was
wow.
Before Minecraft?
Yeah, that was before I downloaded Minecraft Lite, dude.
BM? Before Minecraft?
Yeah.
Are we in the Stone Ages, dude? All right. And now, switching over, instead of looking back, we're looking forward. What are you looking forward to? Ty, once again, we'll start with you.
This game, I feel like, kind of slides under the radar because the ACC doesn't get a lot of love. Give me Clemson traveling to Georgia Tech.
I like it.
Clemson has looked very vulnerable its last 2 games. They did not look good against LSU. Against Troy, they somehow looked even worse. They were losing to Troy at the half. And for a program like Clemson that's supposed to be mighty and strong, being down to Troy at half is not what you want to see. Cade Klubnik has not looked like the quarterback we thought he was. I think Georgia Tech has a very good shot if Haynes King plays. Haynes King, the man just loves to run. And he gets so banged up. It's like watching your grandpa try to run by the end of the game, but somehow he still gets 5 yards. He didn't play last week against Gardner-Webb, but it's Gardner-Webb. They were not worried about that game. If he plays and he's fully healthy, I think Georgia Tech takes it.
Yeah, and we've seen Georgia Tech play spoiler in recent years, even just last season. I like it. I like it a lot. Reece, how about you?
Now, there was a couple of games I looked at this week for college football. There's a lot of interesting stories. I was looking at the Vanderbilt Gamecocks game. That looked like a really interesting matchup. I looked at Ohio University versus Ohio State. They haven't played each other since 2010. Ohio University is also the college I almost went to if it weren't for Belmont. But one that stood out to me the most was the USF versus Miami game. USF just straight beat 2 ranked opponents. They're now ranked number 18 versus number 5 Miami. That is a matchup I really want to see how USF faces Miami. I think it's going to be a real test to see how good they are instead of just beating teams that are ranked that might not be deserving of that ranking since it's so early in the season. So I think this is their first real trial of being those teams that people might have to start taking into consideration.
Yeah, definitely we see a lot of early season upsets pretty much every year, but it's always interesting to see how those pan out. I know Ty remembers NIU beating Notre Dame.
One of the darkest moments of last season, let's just say that.
And yet, to me at least, I never thought, NIU is a legitimately good football team. I thought, they caught Notre Dame on a bad day. It'll be interesting to see USF. I feel a little bit better about them, but certainly Miami will be a harder test than Florida. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye out on. Now, I cheated a little bit. I was going to bring this up for thing I enjoyed, and then I saw the Adrian College, and I went, you know what? I'm going to have to figure out a different way to work this in. I said Aiden Chiles specifically, continuing to play at a high level. That's Michigan State's quarterback. Am I a Michigan State fan? Yes. Does that make me biased? More than you could possibly imagine.
So biased, ladies and gentlemen. This guy eats, sleeps, and breathes Michigan State.
That being said, led a huge 42 to 40 double overtime win against Boston College last week. Threw for 231 yards and 4 touchdowns, career high in touchdown passes. Also tacked on 39 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. He's been playing fantastic. Last year, his main issue was he just loved to throw it up into triple coverage. Hey, it happens to the best of us, right? But it's a little easier to take when I'm doing it on Madden versus when he's doing it in a college football game. He's looked so much better. His decision-making specifically, he's still airmailing some throws, but he's got a big arm. Sometimes that just happens. He's looked spectacular. He's been making great decisions. Now, Michigan State is playing the lowly Youngstown State. Do I think that's going to be a great game? No.
Yes.
Do I think Aiden Chiles can continue to rack up stats against bad teams, maybe even, and I can continue to live in delusion for yet another week and say Heisman? Yes. I would love that. So I'm hoping he puts on a show. He played well against Western Michigan week 1, but didn't do a ton. Didn't really need to. Could be a similar week, but I'm hoping he continues to show out, and I'm excited to see how he's going to continue to improve as the season goes along. And because I've been going last, I'm going to jump ahead and go first on the NFL thing we're looking forward to.
Wow.
I know.
Skipping the line.
I'm just greedy. I'm greedy. I want to talk. I just like to keep going.
Go for
If I
it.
get going, I can't stop.
This is the Nick Rampe Show featuring Ty Wellemeyer and Reece Leddy.
Fellas, we got a Super Bowl rematch on the docket. Eagles-Chiefs. Now, was it a very good Super Bowl?
No.
Not even really that close. Do I think this game will be close? Maybe, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles win by a lot again. But it's a Super Bowl rematch. Who doesn't want to see that? The Chiefs are in an interesting spot where I feel like everybody knows what they are at this point, and we have known. And, now they're down Worthy, maybe for an extended period of time. They don't have Rasheed Rice. But Mahomes, I thought, at least, has looked better this year than he did last year, at least. He feels a little more confident. Confident's not even the word, but he seems a little more greedy. He seems like he wants it all more often, and he's less content to take the checkdowns that we've seen him do. And with the way that the Cowboys played the Eagles last week, kept it a close game, I'd love to see the Chiefs take a similar approach. Just kind of air it out. See what happens. They don't have much of a run game, much like the Cowboys. Granted, their passing game might be worse than the Cowboys right now, just on paper. But I think if they can just keep it going, if Mahomes throws it like 40 times, I don't really see that as a bad thing, and I think it could make for a really interesting game. The Eagles are the Eagles. They looked okay week 1, but certainly you would expect them to beat the Cowboys by more than 6. So, and, the Eagles over the years have had struggles just not winning winnable games or even playing down to competition, whatever you want to call it. I think it'll be a good game overall. But even if it's not, Super Bowl rematch, I like a good narrative.
Who cares? It's a Super Bowl rematch.
Just Super Bowl rematch.
It's a Super Bowl rematch.
All right, let's go to Reece next. What are you looking forward to in the NFL?
So I don't think I've ever mentioned the Colts this much in my life because as a Patriots fan, he took away my favorite quarterback for 4 weeks back in 2016. Yeah,
Didn't you win the Super Bowl anyway?
Yeah, but come on, it still hurt a little bit.
Dark days in the Patriots.
It's okay. We got to see Jimmy Garoppolo ball out, so it was kind of cool. But
You went 3-1, man. I don't want to hear it.
But anyways, Broncos at Colts. Broncos last week, I really like Bo Nix as a quarterback in general. I think he's really fun to watch. Last week was not his greatest performance. He had 2 interceptions and a touchdown. And that should have been a game I think the Titans should have won if Calvin Ridley, I know his age, he's kind of turning into stone. His hands shouldn't turn into stone. He's got to be catching those balls. He's got to be doing what his job is, which is to catch the balls thrown into his hands. And Cam Ward was doing a really good job at that. Cam Ward I feel like it wasn't as bad as people probably think it was for a start by a rookie quarterback. I liked what I saw out of Cam Ward. But for this Bo Nix, Daniel Jones matchup, I feel like for Daniel Jones, this is the test. This is the test for him. I know I keep saying that. This is the test. This is the test. But for Daniel Jones, this is going to show if he is a consistent quarterback, and that just for some reason, Brian Dable, Coach of the Year in 2022, just can't coach his players. But when they go to other teams, they flourish. Let's see if that theory comes to fruition against the Broncos. But I think this is going to be a really good matchup.
Okay, first off, I have to say you're really alienating our 30-plus-year-old audience. Calvin Ridley's only 30 years old.
He's only 30?
He's only 30.
Oh, my.
He's actually shocking.
That's shocking to me.
Been around for forever, but, and granted, does he look like he's turning to stone? Yeah.
Possibly.
Is he playing very well?
No.
I got to be honest, I've never been a Bo Nix fan. Never been a Bo Nix.
I've heard about this agenda.
It is one of my strongest agendas, and he played terrible, and I thought, you know what, nice. That feels good for me because there's nothing I love more than being right. But this is an interesting matchup, and like you mentioned, for Daniel Jones specifically, Miami's defense is not good, and I don't think anybody expected them to be good. Denver's was good, or is good. They played well against Ward. They were able to win. The Titans defense forced 4 turnovers, and the Broncos still won that game by 8, right? So I think that the Broncos defense is really, really strong, and it will be interesting to see, what's this Daniel Jones guy about? Is he actually good, or is he just goofing around, Big questions. Big question. Ty, to cap us off, what are you looking forward to?
Nick, I feel like you have a lot of things to say about this game that I'm about to say. The Chicago Bears traveled to your Detroit Lions. I feel like both these teams kind of disappointed in week 1. The Bears had a huge lead on the Vikings, my Minnesota Vikings, and couldn't control that lead. Caleb Williams went from looking really good in the first half to overthrowing players, just not really looking to have control of the offense in the second half. Nick, your Lions against the Packers look dreadful.
You for that, Seth.
Thank you, Seth.
Really needed
that offense, Goff just looked lost. Gibbs couldn't get anything on the ground. The only guy who looked decent on the offense was Sam Laporta because Goff kept throwing to him. Isaac Tesla had that nice catch, but he played like 3 snaps. Really just a bad offensive performance from the Lions. And if they look bad against Ben Johnson, who was their former offensive coordinator, might not be a good look for him. So I feel like either of these teams, both these teams have to win to prove that they're not flukes.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, the Ben Johnson return is a big narrative. It's the Lions it was abysmal to watch. And you mentioned both teams disappointed, but they both disappointed in very different ways.
Yeah.
Because the Bears were exceeding expectations for about 80% of that game, right? They looked pretty good.
They looked amazing. They looked great.
He was slinging it around. He's playing with confidence. He was still holding the ball too long, but he was getting it out at least. He'd throw it away. Had a couple close plays, but they just it almost felt like they didn't. It just felt like they lost it out of nowhere, right? There was no moment that really. I mean, J.J. McCarthy threw the pick 6, and it felt like it was over.
I thought it was over.
Bears were in control, then they just let their foot off the gas, and let the Vikings come back in. So the Bears are in a unique position where you just really feel like, in my mind, sometimes I have to remind myself that they didn't win that game because it just feels like they should have so much. So they're in a unique position where kind of at the last minute they disappointed. Meanwhile, the Lions, I could double the run time of this podcast right now talking about the Lions, so I won't. I keep it brief.
I bet Doran would love that.
There's just no confidence in this offense. There's no motion anymore, at least, week 1. Very little motion, very few downfield throws, a lot of long developing plays with a check down built in, and the Packers were giving check downs the whole time. They're like, yeah, we'll let you have that, and then we'll swarm and tackle, and you get 2, 3, 4 yards, and then next thing you know, it's 4th down, you're punting it away, or you have to go for it on 4th down, or you're behind enough in the game where you really have to kind of try to force things downfield, and it's just not working. So for the Lions, obviously with a new coordinator, it's going to be different, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and you got to go back to what they were doing before they lost Ben Johnson, frankly. And I hate to say that, but it's true. The offense looked great under Ben Johnson, looked really, really bad last week. Just need to be less complacent. I know you always say take what the defense gives you. Sometimes you got to be greedy and ask for a little bit more. So definitely going to be a good game, I think. It'll be interesting to see if the Bears lose momentum in the same way, or if they even need to, or if they just get out to a huge lead early like the Packers did, and then it doesn't matter. Thank you for listening to another episode of Sideline Vision. Join us next Thursday. We'll be keeping you updated on everything Belmont sports and a little bit extra.